All right, friends, I'm out here in a beautiful cloudy morning on Rattlesnake Mountain in Willsboro. I know some of you have gone hiking down there, but yeah, there's lots of great Adirondacks to explore. I don't know if you know this about me, but that's what I did for most of my life before teaching. I was a guide. I worked at summer camps. I guided trips, hiking, rock climbing, backpacking trips. You know, I've done the 46 like 24 times, including in the winter and actually all 4 seasons. I've climbed all the Northeast 4,000 footers. We went out to the West Coast and climbed some big volcanoes like Mount Rainier and Mount Shasta. So before I became this ultra cool teacher, I lived a life of outdoor mountain guiding. And so, yeah, I still get out, not as much as I used to. But anyway, today's animal of the day is doing a number on the forest this year, I've noticed. Have you?
All right.
Hey now.
Mr. Kovacs class. It's Mr. Kovacs class. You might learn a ton. It's Mr. Kovacs class.
He's interested too.
It's Mr. Kovacs class. And he's super cool. It's Mr. Kovacs class.
Yeah, it's probably hard to see, but I mean, if you look at the canopy, there's a lot of oaks here on the summit of Rattlesnake. And yeah, if you look, I mean, the oaks are getting just absolutely destroyed by gypsy moths. I mean, look at this one branch. I mean, every leaf has been chewed. And yeah, what are you up to, man? Why are you doing this? Why are you destroying our forests? I know, you just want to eat. Now, interestingly enough, I've learned by experience that the little hairs on gypsy moths can cause allergic reactions similar to poison ivy. I won't tell you this, but I did have a serious rash. It was when I was out mountain biking, and they kept falling off the trees and pummeling me right like in my forearms. And I got these terrible, terrible rashes. So yeah, in addition to eating every leaf in sight, these little guys can also be kind of a hazard to your physical well-being. They're not the ugliest dudes, so look at them, they're pretty cute. Look at that little gypsy moth face. Now remember, they're gonna grow up to be moths. They're gonna start flying, so they're gonna have to go through complete metamorphosis. There's his rear end, his front end. Yeah. So this is the summer of the gypsy moths. As I've been hiking here today, I noticed they've done a number on these trees too. These are gymnosperms, cone-bearing trees. These are white pines, right? So oak trees make flowers. You probably never noticed an oak flower, but you've definitely noticed an oak fruit. They're called an acorn. These guys, where are you, little guy? Look at them. Oh my gosh. But they seem to like eating the needles off of these gymnosperms as well, and they're all over this tree too. See if I can't focus on them. Anyway, so I guess they're not just peculiarly picky to oak trees, but they probably have some diet, things they like and some things they don't. Man, look at them all over the place. So this is what those little leaf eaters grow up to be, which is actually kind of cute. Now, I don't know much about gypsy moths, to be honest, other than what I've observed, but that's one of the beauties about being, I just did a little internet search, right, like Google search, and New York State's got a great Department of Environmental Conservation website. So this is a state-run, right, agency that monitors the ecology of the state. And they do have they had some stuff about gypsy moths. One of the things I learned was that there is a huge outbreak of gypsy moths right now. And this is not a native, it's a invasive species. And what's really interesting that I read in this is that they were originally brought
into the United States in 1869, so 4 years after the Civil War. And the idea was that they could breed maybe with some other kinds of silkworms to develop a silk industry in the United States. Most silk came from the Far East. Okay, so yeah, they were brought on purpose for one reason, but they basically escaped, and now, hey, they're still here generations later. So they're a good example of what we call an invasive species. And invasive species are plants, animals, fungus, you name it, that are introduced to a new place, and by virtue of their introduction, they cause disruption. New York State is not immune to the invasive species, right? Like the gypsy moth. Let's see, there's some ones that are on a hit list right now. This is the alfalfa weevil. So around here, a lot of people grow alfalfa as a crop in between corn planting seasons. It really helps restore nitrogen into the soil. It also is a pretty valuable hay for, feeding livestock and stuff. But this is weevil. It destroys alfalfa crops. The emerald ash borer is an insect, right? It's a beetle also, but when it's a larva, it basically chews its way through the xylem and phloem of trees, ash trees in particular, which girdle or basically kill the trees. So they cause massive damage of our native ash trees. Now remember, they're just living their lives, right? This is the Asian longhorn beetle. They are another invasive species that causes tons of damage to our native trees. It's mostly their young. They're wood boring beetles, so their grubs actually dig into the sides of trees and eat. They basically are looking for the phloem, right? If you remember from when we did Project Plant, the phloem is where the sap is running. If any of you are boaters or have a boat, you know that all around the state there are lots of signs at every boat launch reminding you that if you take your boat out of the water, you need to clean it before you go into the water somewhere else. And that's because there are a number of waterborne invasive species. A lot of them are plants, like the water chestnut and the milfoil, Eurasian milfoil. And probably the most famous animal around here is the old zebra mussel. Zebra mussels have been introduced. They've been around now for about 40 years, but they came on ships. They were just stuck to the underside of ships. And it originally got into the St. Lawrence, watershed and the Great Lakes. And then they were spread to smaller lakes because people took their boats, they had zebra mussels on them. Zebra mussels they're mollusks. Okay, so they've got the shell on the outside, they're squishy on the inside, and they're filter feeders. That is, they just suck water in. And actually, if you have a lot of zebra mussels, you'll find that the water is extremely clear, which is great for the clarity of the water, because the zebra mussels suck out so much little life forms. But it makes it tough on other animals that live there when the zebra mussel is out competing them for food. And then the other problem with zebra mussels is they're fairly small, and they like to live in colonies or groups, and they like protected areas. So one of the things we've noticed about zebra mussels is they tend to congregate in intake pipes for factories and things like that, and on your boats. And anyway, they can cause massive water systems, so they can be quite troublesome. Probably the number one invasive species though around here are domestic cats. I know you're saying, Mr. Kobach, I love kitty cats, and he does too. Mr. Kobach I have two beautiful cats that I love more than anything else. But that does not mean that they're not an invasive species. So cats are not, there are some native cats, right? You've got mountain lions, lynxes, and bobcats that are native, but your typical house cat is an imported, usually because we're so good at killing things, especially small things. Meow, what cat's got to do, what a cat's got to do, meow, meow. That if you were a farmer or something, or or let's say you were in a city and you owned a big building, you'd want to control rodents. So cats are a perfect way to do that. But cats are pretty good at killing a lot of things. In fact, they are the number one killer of birds in the United States. Our house cats. It's estimated that just house cats kill over 80 million birds, and I mean hundreds of million. So like if you have a cat, the estimate is that one cat could kill about 115 animals a year. All right.
Meow, what cat's got to do, what a cat's got to do, meow, meow.
So, I mean, I love kitty cats. I mean, I love them so much. And, yeah, it's interesting to think of. Mr. Kobach is not saying don't have a cat, but be aware that they do have an effect on other things. All right. So we call these guys invasive species. You know, they're not native and they cause some damage. All right. So there's a number of them. And today's animal of the day, the gypsy moth, is the one that's currently doing a lot of damage right now.